Monday, January 6, 2014, 2:39 p.m. So, how may I help you today, Mr. Blesov? I'm seated in the interview room at the offices of Dixon, Cox and Peters. Mr. Blesov sits opposite me, surly, dark, and bristling with hair and indignation. I want to make application to Constitutional Court that Mr. Ludak is illegal immigrant. Mr. Blesov, this is a dividing fences dispute. Yes, I know. I want Ludak to be placed in the jail. He is not meant to be here. That would really be a matter for the Department of Immigration. Look, I want you to take this matter to Constitutional Court. Ludak, he is mad, you know. He is throwing the tea bags at my house. Can you imagine? Tea bags. This is final straw. I must fight back. I have received a statement from his solicitors saying that you've been throwing raw eggs at his house. Is that true? Mr. Blesov laughs, or rather snorts, then squints, twisting his head from side to side. Maybe I throw it once, just to show him that he cannot throw tea bags at my house. He is from the other country, you know. They are all mad. Now I want you to make this application so that Mr. Ludak, he can go to Port Hedland Detention Center. I can't do that, Mr. Blesov. If you have some proof of his illegal entry status, why don't you contact the Department of Immigration? You don't understand. Immigrations are in conspiracy with Ludak. Mr. Blesov slams his index finger into the table to punctuate each word of his next sentence. That is uncontroversial fact. In his latest statement, Mr. Ludak says you are in a conspiracy against him with the local government. Mr. Blesov snorts. That shows you he is mad. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Blesov. I can't do anything for you. You won't help me? I can't, Mr. Blesov. There is no constitutional court. We are your solicitors on a dividing fences issue. That is dealt with in the magistrate's court. If you won't help me, I will not pay this. Mr. Blesov brandishes my last interim bill. In fact, Mr. Blesov has never paid a bill. You are Balkan, yes? I'm Australian, Mr. Blesov. There is no such thing. I think maybe you're also from the other country. His eyes narrow as he nods. My grandfather came from the Adriatic coast. That means nothing. What religion are you? Mr. Blesov, I'm an atheist. Can we please... Okay. He starts putting the bill into the crumpled pile of loose papers and stops abruptly and shakes it at me. Remember, I no pay for this. No pay, okay? I sigh. Perhaps you can tell me what proof you have, and I'll see what I can do. Mr. Blesov raises both hands in mock triumph. Finally, we are talking. Mr. Blesov drops his file on the desk and starts to leaf through newspaper articles I can already see have no relevance whatsoever. 5:56 p.m. I am back at my desk staring at my blank screen, which has gone to power saver mode. I can see my reflection, and I'm not a pretty sight. My hair is a ruffled bird's nest again, my tie is loosened, and my shirt is untucked. The tomato sauce I spilled on my shirt during my hurried late lunch is still obvious, despite all my dousing with water and concerted dabbing and wiping. Mr. Blesov hasn't been my only problem. Since my meeting with him, I've seen another recalcitrant client, Mrs. Carreau, spelt carrot, a rather imperious woman who wants me to draft a will that excludes her children aged 9 and 12. I've endured a henpecking from Justin, our accounts manager, about bills unpaid by Mr. Blesov and Mrs. Carreau, and run down to the Supreme and District Courts with urgent papers Brad was meant to have lodged 2 weeks before Christmas. It seems a terribly unfair way to start the year. At least now the office is finally quiet. Brad and the others left more than an hour ago, reveling in the New Year Christmas holiday season. Mr. Dixon, however, is still in his office. I can hear his impatient shuffling through the particle board walls. Moments later I hear a sustained sonorous fart, followed by a deep sigh. My vague reflection winces in the darkened screen as I cast my mind back to the whirlwind that has comprised the last 36 hours. After I lost Bugsy at Uncle Frank's, I became rather frantic. I remember vigorously jumping up and down on the floor of the recording booth to see if I could loosen the trapdoor, but it soon became obvious that I was simply jumping on thick concrete. I'm ashamed to say it, but in many ways the loss of Bugsy was a much harder pill to swallow than the death of Uncle Frank. I really felt I couldn't live without my little buddy. Going home without him just wasn't an option. I had to find a way to get him back wherever he was. Then it occurred to me, maybe he never went into the recording booth. Maybe I imagined it all. And so I ran to every corner of the studio, looking under the mixing desk, behind the screens, behind the speakers. Monitors, Dan, they're called monitors. No sign of Bugsy. I even ran up the steps to see if the cellar door had been opened, but it was shut tight. I kept repeating the same circuit, embodying the very definition of a madman, one who repeats the same action over and over, hoping for a different result. But after about an hour, the exhaustion set in. Remember, I hadn't slept the whole night, so my frantic search gradually dwindled to a shuffle and became increasingly comical, involving such things as lifting a pile of Rolling Stone magazines, as if Bugsy might have crawled under them. By then my sweat had dried, as had my tears. Finally, I flopped myself down at the screen in a state of dishevelled shock, much the same as I feel now. There seemed only one thing left to do. Reluctantly, I prodded the mouse and the screen lit up. I closed the sound software and stared at the list of profiles I'd recorded. At the very end, I could see 051250501214.exe recorded at 5:12 a.m. This was Bugsy's. Without thinking or caring about the consequences, I double-clicked. Printing profile 051250501214 to local port, please wait, ... At that moment I wondered whether the door to the recording booth was closed or wedged open. After all, I reasoned, this seemed significant in the whole process, whatever that might be. So I looked up, craning my neck around the screen to see the door, and yes, it was closed. When I looked back at the screen, it said, "Printing finished. Press any key to continue." I gingerly made my way to the recording booth. I didn't know whether to expect Uncle Frank, Bugsy, or... The unknown is always far scarier than what you can imagine. Despite my weariness, I felt the injection of a fresh dose of adrenaline. My temples started pounding again, this time against the backdrop of a splitting headache. Even before I got to the door, I knew I was in luck. I could hear a faint meow, the call Bugsy gives when Kylie has closed the laundry window through which he normally exits and enters the house. A flood of tears welled in my eyes as I opened the door to see him sitting there next to the microphone stand, his face tilted slightly. I scooped him up and cradled him for a full minute, sobbing all the while. It was Bugsy who interrupted our reunion. He seemed quite nonplussed by the attention and slipped out of my arms as if to say, "What's with all the fuss? I was only asking you to open the door." Watching him padding quietly out of the recording booth, I couldn't help but wonder what in the world had just happened. The cat seemed to have been there all along. Even the Rode microphone in its stand was exactly where I'd left it. Had I just imagined the last hour? If so, I really was going mad. And so, in this utterly perplexed and depleted state, I made my way back to the staircase, making sure Bugsy was following me. I paused only to grab my keys off the mixing desk and have one final look at the studio. I remember vowing to lock the place up and never ever go back again. Then I picked up Bugsy and made my way to the trapdoor. It was 8:15 a.m. when I finally pulled my car into the driveway. Jim was readying his pneumatic drill on his porch, and he stopped to wave at me. I thought Kylie might still be sleeping, but then I noticed her car wasn't in the garage. She would be at Sunday morning yoga class, followed by book club at Yvonne's. So with a sigh of relief, I opened the door, put the keys and cat down, headed for the shower, and then crept into bed. 6:12 p.m. A beep from my computer jolts me out of my thoughts. At almost the same moment, Mr. Dixon opens his door and stands silhouetted in the hallway. Djurdjevic, I need some help with my computer." "Sure, Mr. Dixon. How may I help?" "I can't create a PDF. I don't know what's gone wrong." "No problem. I can help you with that," I say as cheerily as I can. Takes me about 15 minutes to work out that Dixon has somehow managed to disable the PDF creation software. I find a workaround using Word and finally return to my desk. 3 minutes later, Dixon emerges, attaché case in hand. "Thanks for that, Djurdjevic. That was very helpful." "No worries, Mr. Dixon. Any time." Didn't want to tell you while you were helping me, as that would have seemed rude." Dixon is looking awkward, and I'm starting to get worried. He takes a deep breath and continues. "But now that you're back at your desk, I can tell you, I've noticed that since the holiday season, you've been talking more to the legal graduates. This is both wasteful of your time, as well as highly disruptive for them. So I'm giving you this official warning to correct your behaviour." At that he nods and says, "Good night, Djurdjevic," and exits the main open plan area into the foyer. All I can do is shake my head. Another classic from Mr. Dixon. The irony is that I've never spoken less to my colleagues than in the last month. With all of Uncle Frank's stuff, I haven't felt able to talk to anyone. A beam of late afternoon sunlight streams in from the boss's open door onto half of my screen, making it hard to see as I prod the mouse. It seems I have an email. It is from someone named Samir de Souza. The header is titled simply "Thank you." Since it looks just like the last Nigerian scam email I got, I go to delete it and shut down. But just as I move the mouse over the message, something makes me reconsider. I suppose it is a spark of optimism that maybe, just maybe, someone is actually thanking me for something I've done lately. That would make a nice change, so I click on it. What I see makes my pulse quicken and brings a knot to my stomach. The message reads as follows. "Thanks for the microphone and the cat. The microphone I understand, but the cat is a bit of a mystery. If I'm not mistaken, you've sent me Bugsy. Oh well, seems to like me as well as he ever did. Let me know if you want the cat back. Please don't tell me you've made another copy. I'm off to Switzerland for a while, staying in a clinic. It seems I need that heart surgery after all. But boy, did the doctors have a shock. Anyway, I'll be out of touch for a while. Stay safe and have fun. Remember, change your status quo. I know you can. You made it this far, didn't you? Samir. P.S. I sent messages back to my old house, but you didn't answer, hence this email. Please delete it ASAP. 6:55 p.m. The light is fading as I pull into the driveway. A strong sea breeze is blasting my cocos palms eastwards, and it feels surprisingly chilly as I get out of my car. I hope this means that the weather is changing a little. I survey my garden and notice that the couch grass is starting to yellow, just as Jim said it would. I can see that the lights are on inside and I swallow. Kylie speaks as I open the door. "Oh, there you are. I wondered when you'd be home." She exits from the bedroom and I see she's all dressed up, holding a lipstick and smacking her lips. "You do remember that we're due at my mum's in half an hour?" "Oh, I'll be ready in 10 minutes, Pumpkin. I'll just have to freshen up a bit." "Whatever is that stain on your shirt, Dan?" "Oh, nothing. Just something I spilled at lunch. I'll put it in a bucket of bleach and it'll come out." Kylie shakes her head as I say this and snorts. "You're hopeless. You really are. Well, hurry up then, or we'll be late." Kylie's family's Greek, and this is their Christmas Eve. They don't like me, and they don't like my family. I think they only agreed to the wedding because I am nominally Orthodox on my father's side. Even after all these years, they continue to regard me with undisguised suspicion. Kylie's dad, Narkis, reminds me of Mr. Blessov. Kylie's mum, Tula, is, on the other hand, rather pleasant, albeit that the affection she displays seems tinged with a kind of pity. It's not my fault that I'm not Greek. I go to my room, switch on my computer to check my emails, and start undressing. Bugsy comes in to greet me and I pick him up so that we touch noses. He blinks ever so slowly with both eyes, even his droopy right one. This is normally unremarkable, but something makes me pull him away and hold him at arm's length. Bugsy protests with a wriggle. Droopy right eye? Used to be on the left. The cat wriggles even more, so I put him down. He bounds to the door, where he slows, tail swishing, and slinks around the corner. Bugsy is back to front, a mirror image. Then I remember the email I just read at the office. I had forwarded it home, so I move over to the computer in my underpants, still buttoning my shirt.
Dan Djurdjevic, you're not on the computer again, are you? We're running late.
No, I'm getting dressed. Be down in a minute. My voice booms in the small room as I reach with my foot to close the door. I'm buttoning up as I wait for Outlook to switch on. My notebook is old and everything takes forever. I'm at my last button as the emails finish downloading, all 28 of them. Some are spam, but most are invoices from various clothing, jewelry, and accessory stores. It seems my wife has been shopping, as usual. The post-Christmas sales are on. Finally, the email from Frank downloads and I open it. My eyes scan and find the relevant lines straight away. I'm off to Switzerland for a while, staying in the clinic. Seems that I need heart surgery after all. But boy, did the doctors have a shock. Anyway, I'll be out of touch for a while. Stay safe and have fun. Why would the doctors have a shock? What was so remarkable about a heart defect? Then I remember Frank tapping his right breast when we were back in his Wanneroo studio. I type in organs on the wrong side of the body into Google, and the first hit I get is the Wikipedia entry on situs inversus. It reads, situs inversus, also called situs transversus or oppositus, is a congenital condition in which the major visceral organs are reversed or mirrored from their normal positions. The normal arrangement is known as situs solitus. So that's why the doctors would have been shocked about his heart. It was on the wrong side. When I think about the two-fingered typing Frank was doing at the studio console, I remember that I was standing on his right. That means the hand closest to me, the one that had the purple scar, was his right hand. But Frank's scar was originally on his left hand. It seems that, just like Bugsy, the new Uncle Frank is a copy, a mirror image copy. I exit the internet browser and go back to the email. Everything is starting to make some sort of twisted sense. Frank's recording studio isn't meant to record sound. I mean, it probably can be used as a sound studio. Actually, I know it can, given the mixing desk and the music hardware and software I found in it. But this is all just an elaborate cover. The studio's real purpose is something altogether different. It is actually some sort of 3D copy and print machine. Whatever is in the recording booth gets recorded and saved as a profile. The profile can then be printed, it seems, anywhere in the world, so long as you have the right machinery. Except that, for whatever reason, the printed version seems to come out as a mirror image.
Dan, I'm warning you. We have to leave right now. Are you ready?
I'm frantically pulling my pants on as they keep rereading the email. When I've done that, I sit on my swivel chair, pants loose and unzipped, and pull on fresh socks. All the while my eyes stay glued to the screen. Let me know if you want the cat back. Please don't tell me you've made another copy. I realize now I must have copied Bugsy and the microphone and somehow printed them in Rio, where Frank had printed a copy of himself. And Frank was right. Obviously, I must have then printed another copy of both Bugsy and the microphone in my studio. Frank did say the studio was mine now, to use anyway. In other words, there were now two Bugsies, one in Rio and one in Perth. Okay, I think I'm starting to understand the recording and printing side of things. But one thing I can't figure out is this. How did I manage to erase poor Bugsy in the first place? Just at that moment, the door bursts open to reveal my furious wife, standing arms akimbo, tapping her foot. I'm reminded of the hopping dynamite stick. Luckily, I'm just slipping on my shoes. You were on the computer. You're always on that damn thing. I should have just gone with Brad. I really should have, she yells. Her bad grammar always grates on me. He's just sent me an SMS telling me he's already there. He's at my mum's and dad's and we're not. And do you want to know why? Because my useless husband came home late and is now on his stupid computer again. Sorry, Pumpkin, I was only checking the emails as I was getting dressed. I stand up and put my back to the screen, doing up the belt buckle, but forgetting my zip, as was later to be pointed out. What were you looking at that was so important anyway? Nothing, honey, just some work I sent home. It's all fixed now, so it doesn't matter, I mumbled. Kylie senses my discomfort and tries to muscle past me to see what is on the screen, but I quickly turn and close the message. Then I reflexively click on it, and press the delete and shift keys simultaneously. This means deleting the message permanently rather than letting it go into the deleted items folder where my wife likes to snoop. Kylie snorts in anger, stamps her foot, and storms out of the room. As I'm grabbing my keys and wallet, I hear her car starting up and the whine as it reverses out of the driveway. I run to the door expecting her to wait at the top, but a moment later I hear her accelerating down our road. It seems I'll have to go to her folks' house separately, which is sure to prompt more than a little derision from Narkis and chortling from Brad.